Greetings, Algo artisans. We're going to do a quick chart review for the beginning of the week. We didn't have time to do a video yesterday, so we're going to take a look at Bitcoin, Solana, and the USDJPY charts today. So let's jump into the charts right now. Quick reminder that nothing we say in any of our videos, work, or website is to be used or construed as investment advice. Please consult a licensed investment advisor before risking your money on the markets because you can lose your money. It's risky. Okay, so Bitcoin having an interesting day. It looks like perhaps our rally to the upside was stopped short. We're not quite sure yet if Bitcoin will continue to head up towards 72,000 or if it may head down towards 60,000. And there is the other option of neither. It might just simply go sideways, have a little bit of a llama market for a few days. We're going to see about that. Let's go ahead and start with all of the liquidity because there's been some changes since this morning's class when I mapped out Bitcoin, right? I did say, and I did predict properly that Bitcoin would head down and grab this area here. I'm going to delete this here. I'm going to delete that there. And this yellow rectangle here was liquidity. Price did go down and grab that this morning. Just another version of how I can pretty much predict where price is going to go, at least to some degree. And anytime I can do that, I can also profit, take trades with regard to that. And it went all the way down pretty far. There's plenty of room to profit on this. So let's take a look at the liquidity now, the liquidations on the Kingfisher.io. And this is an updated chart. There's a lot of liquidations down between 58,400 and 60,180. So roughly right about there. There are some right here from price all the way up to about 68,100. So let's go ahead and get rid of this liquidity from this morning and draw our new map right here. Depending on how price wants to move, we can tell at least which direction it wants to go, usually using price action, using algos, indicators. We also know price tends to head to these blocks right here, right? Let's take a look at the price action. We can see that it's basically consolidating, creating a bit of a range. Did actually stop short of going down too far, and it does appear to be creating a new range, which I started to map out yesterday, and I'm a little more comfortable saying that this range is developing probably like this or like this, right? There's not a lot of data yet. However, it does appear that that's what's going on, and price may wag back and forth, and having these liquidations right above price gives us a clue that given that price stopped going down back here a few days ago on Sunday and then has apparently done the same thing, at least so far it stopped going down, price may actually break back upwards just for some range play. We're not sure yet. We don't know what's going to happen. It is quite possible, and if it does do that, then we can go ahead and look at a range breakout scenario. Now, this range could be a little tighter than what we're looking at because there are a lot of pivot points up here going back to the past and up in here. So these might just be deviations from the range, and until we really see more price action, we're not going to be sure. So I'm not entirely sure that I want to go long here. I think it's a decent bet given that you have the liquidations right here, but I want to see what the algos say before I start just willy-nilly heading into longs. And right now, I'm not ready to do that. At this point, the algos are bearish, at least on the 3-hour. Let's go to the 18-hour and see what the rest of the time frames say. 18-hour definitely bearish. I'm expecting, just based on the 18-hour time frame mostly, and the fact that the 3-hour is not turning around very quickly, we might see price go ahead and head down. And let's look at Fibonacci retracement levels, right? Let's go ahead and map a higher time frame impulse. This is not a pure impulse on low time frame, but from here to here was a pretty strong move. And if you look at a higher time frame, that is going to appear as one impulse upwards. And if we go ahead and put a Fibonacci tool right on there, we're going to see that the 618 is down here roughly at 65,220, 210. Almost has already hit that area. It's quite possible we can technically have seen it. Didn't hit it, but there's liquidity to the left here. There's a kill zone, and that kill zone is where price went ahead and on the way up created this box right here. So price technically has dipped into this liquidity from the prior price action. It may be okay with heading up, but again, I don't like the way the algos look. If I were to go ahead and bet at which way price is going to head, I think it's actually going to head a little downwards and perhaps try to find some liquidity down low. And given that the daily is as bearish as it is, it would take a pretty strong bullish presence to keep price from heading down to probably this area right here around 63,000. That's just a structural area where price did find support and head up in the past. So right now, I'm not exactly comfortable with taking a short. I don't have a clear way of doing that, but if I were forced to take a trade right this minute, I probably would go short and I'd have targets around that area. And again, it might be that price, even though there's some bearishness, it heads up and then heads down. That's always possible. See something like that as well. So right now it's unclear, and I don't like to short the bottom of ranges. And even though this range is a little bit, let's just say it's new, it's fresh, it hasn't really developed. I don't know if I want to short that. Not a lot to do trading wise on Bitcoin, in my opinion, at this time. I'm a little bearish. I think price is going to eventually make its way down. And when it does break out, I may look for that short and short down to one of these areas right here. So let's move on to Solana, which has been performing pretty well compared to Bitcoin. However, it now does seem to be heading back down towards this bearish triangle. Now, I was pretty comfortable saying that this bearish triangle was invalidated. If price drops back down into this bearish descending triangle, then price could end up back in that pattern, although in a way that pattern's kind of ruptured, so it's not as clean as it used to be. I wouldn't have quite as much confidence in this pattern unless price made its way all the way back down to this 130. Now, if Bitcoin decides to head down and grab liquidity down to 60 or 50 or even below that, then yes, this is going to jump right back into that pattern. The reason Solana is willing to go ahead and break out of this pattern was because Bitcoin was acting bullish. Had Bitcoin not acted bullish, it is extremely likely Solana would have continued on this path and eventually made its way down. So Bitcoin's price action is going to have a lot to do with what's going on. The bullish scenario is going to be that Solana goes ahead and maybe grabs liquidity, perhaps here, this little consolidation that we saw on the way up in this most recent move, and it could run down slowly, grab liquidity, and bounce upwards. As much as I'd like to see that, again, you have to want what the market wants when you trade, and this move up was pretty strong, so expecting a retracement of some kind makes an awful lot of sense. I'm not saying it's going to bounce there. That's an ideal scenario. Again, price could just continue down, and Bitcoin is going to be what makes that decision for Solana, I'm pretty sure, unless something really amazing happens in the Solana ecosystem. We're going to jump over to Forex. Now, one thing about Forex you all have to understand, it's also currency pairs. It's sovereign currency pairs. It tells us a lot about the world, and it's just as volatile as cryptocurrency as long as you are trading in the right exchanges. So there's a lot of money to be made in Forex, and cryptocurrency goes, as I always say towards the end of these videos, cryptocurrency goes good for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years. There's a lot of price action, and then it just kind of dies off for its winter. There's always money to be made in every market. However, Forex is much more consistent, and I actually prefer to trade Forex than anything else. So looking at Forex now, we're having quite the event with the USDJPY. And to take it back to what was going on earlier, kind of geopolitically, we had the USDJPY kept bouncing off 152. Over years, it wouldn't go above 152. You can actually go back several years to like 2021, and price just kept bouncing off 152 and not heading up, and it was creating a bullish version of that bearish triangle that we see over on Solana. So let's go ahead and draw that out on a higher time frame, make it a little bit cleaner to see. So this is pretty much one of those triangles. It's not the cleanest one, but it does qualify. And so how would we take advantage of knowing this triangle pattern, right? We got to consider what price is telling us in this pattern here. Now, this is a continuation pattern, and again, it's not the cleanest version of it, but it's really an uptrend, and it did bounce off before really this pattern was established. Technically, you could go back and say that the pattern is much older, but I like to do my measurements off the lowest recognizable area of a pattern like that. So I'm going to use a Fibonacci tool. We're going to go out to the breakout here. We've already hit a 272 target. Now, price initially when it broke out, this is on the weekly chart, okay? This is like a very high time frame chart, and price initially went right back down to the top of that triangle and then bounced up and grabbed the first 272 target. Now, this is price discovery. Price has never been up here, and the tool that I prefer to use for price discovery is going to be the Fibonacci tool for the Fibonacci extensions. So what might happen now? Price is actually on a pretty strong downturn, and if you look at the history of this chart, you have price being pushed up with these hard, messy moves down, and then you have these kind of very consistent moves up with these hard, messy moves down, and we're in a hard, messy move down, and the question is, when does it end? And these will often end without a lot of fanfare. They just kind of bounce up, and so shorting these can be rather dangerous. If you know you're in it and you catch it in that sense, if you can just kind of catch it real quick like that, then that's great. But I wait until it's heading up, and then I go ahead and long. So that's probably the best way to go. And I don't long when it's going down, and I don't short when it's going long, because it's extremely directional, and we're going to see what happens. If this breaks downwards all the way back to the 152, that's actually going to tell us that price is not quite as bullish on this as we thought. Right now, the USD, the dollar, compared to other currencies, is headed up, but not as strongly as the Japanese yen. The Japanese yen is being protected right now very, very strongly, and we've seen it before, these hard, strong moves down. So we're going to see what happens if this gets caught before it hits 152, then we're going to continue on an uptrend. If it actually makes it down to 152 or lower, then we we might have seen the end of this crazy movement of the Japanese yen. And again, there's a little bit of a, I don't want to say currency war, but you can use that term, as to why we're seeing price acting so volatile here. Now, for the moment, the algos are still bearish on this time frame, so price is probably not ready to turn around and head up just yet. However, like I said before, it will do so rather unexpectedly. That was on the weekly. Now, on the daily, it's also still pretty bearish. So if I were to go ahead and guess which way price is going to head and even maybe take a trade based on that, I might go ahead and short. Obviously, I would not go long like I just said in this environment, but if I were to take like a swing trade, hold on to a trade for several days, I might look for price to break below this recent low right here, and then I'd let price go ahead, break below that, maybe have a pullback and grab a short right there, and then have my stop loss based on the structure created by this pullback. Now, that's what I might look for. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but it's a good plan. So I'm going to keep my eye out for that. The other thing you have to worry about here are some of these older structures. You have this low here and that low there. So I might take profit right before those lows and definitely manage my, my stop losses, take my risk off and go from there. So just a little plan on the USDJPY, and that is all we have time for today. I hope this video was helpful. Please come over to algofactory.tech. We teach people how to build their own trading method, otherwise known as an algorithm. You don't have to know how to code, but if you do code, we can put you on the path to where you can build something that trades for you while you're not at the computer. If you just want to trade manually, which is what most people are doing, then that is, of course, something that we can help you do and help you have the capability to possibly extract money out of these markets on a regular basis. And while we do focus on crypto for a lot of these videos, I'm actually primarily a Forex trader, and you got to know that crypto doesn't go forever. It goes for about a year and a half, and then for a couple of years, there's not much going on in crypto. And if you want to be a trader, you're going to want to understand how to really trade, how to put on those big boy pants, because what's going to happen is eventually crypto's going to flatten out, and the meme coins aren't going to be what they used to be, most likely. I've seen it enough times. I've been in this game since 2017. I don't expect that to change. So come on over, learn how to trade. As a matter of fact, we got some pretty happy customers who are already down the path of success in their algo building. Let's hear from one of those right now.
This is Think Free's Algo Factory testimonial. I began my prescription for Algo Factory the summer of 2023. I am now 70 years old, and I have set a goal to have a supplementary income by learning to trade. I have been putting in about 3 to 4 hours per week of study time. In spite of this small time of commitment, I am determined to learn to trade. I set a goal of slow, steady progress in my learning. It is now March of 2024, and I have been delighted that through the articulate speech and hands-on help and support from Cowboy, I have developed an algo that looks very promising. I've come to appreciate Cowboy's remarkable ability to communicate and teach. He's not just knowledgeable, but also very creative in his shoot-from-the-hips approach. I wonder, is that where the name Cowboy came from? I have followed the Algo Cowboy and V the Guerrilla Economist for more than 3 years, and have found them to be very respectful, caring, and firmly rooted in reality. By that I mean they have a clear, deep, no-nonsense understanding of the world we live in, not just in trading and economics, but geopolitically and, dare I say, spiritually as well. For me, this fact makes working with them all the more gratifying and secure. This has and continues to be a great investment of my time and money. Also ends up being fun with the humor that is shared amongst our Algo Factory group members. Thank you, Cowboy.
AlgoFactory.tech. Trade your job, upgrade your life, and we'll see you on the next one.